Hey class, today what we're going to do is talk about slope. So to start with, slope is just the measurement of the steepness of a line. So we've got some lines and we're going to measure how steep they are, so how fast they go up versus how slow they go up. The formula that you're going to need to know for this is the letter is always going to be represented with an M. M is always going to be your slope, and it's going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You may also hear this referred to as your rate of change, which is the change in y over the change in x, which is why those formulas are so similar. You're also going to see this as the rise over the run. I'm sure you've heard a lot of teachers say rise over run. So if you think of rise, that deals with your y-axis because the y-axis goes up and down, and your run deals with the x-axis because the x-axis goes left and right. So it's how much we rise by over how much we run. And if you think about that, if I rise, I go in the positive direction, and I run, go in the right direction, which is also positive. I go positive divided by a positive. This is going to be a positive slope. So if your slope is going uphill, you're going to have a positive slope. Now if your slope is going downhill, if you think about my rise is going down, but I'm still going to the right, so I'm going a negative divided by a positive, that's going to be a negative number. Or you can think of going up, which is positive, divided by a negative, which is going to the left. So that's a positive divided by a negative, which is a negative number. So this is a negative slope. So this formula is going to be very, very, very important. Alright, so now let's calculate some slopes. Alright, so slopes are always dealing with lines, and lines represent relationships between some ordered pairs. So when we use the graph, the easiest one, if you get this picture, is to do that rise over the run. So we're going to use rise over run whenever we get that graph. So rise over run, that means if you look at my points, I've got -2, -2. I'm going all the way over here to 4, 1. So what I do is I'm going to get my slope by doing my rise. So I see how much I go up by. So I'm going to go up to here, which it looks like that's a +3. And then I'm going to go my run, which goes all the way across here. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my run is in the right direction, which is positive. So I'm going up 3, right 6. So my rise is 3 over my run of 6, and I can simplify that to 1/2. So my slope for that one would be 1/2. I can do the same thing, but in this case, for example 2, I want to find the slope of a line that passes through points -2, -2, and 4, 1. So I've got 2 points. I want to find what the slope is whenever I go through those. And then I'm going to use my formula that we had earlier, which is m equals y2 minus y1. Sorry, I mislabeled that. Over x2 minus x1. So what I do is I'm going to label these points. Now this is my first set, so this is going to be x1, that's going to be y1. Make sure you do that. And then this would be x2, y2. Remember, in all ordered pairs we're listing the first one is x, the second one is y. So I'm going to plug in all the numbers that I know. So I know that y2 is equal to 1 minus my y1 is -2, so it's minus a -2 divided by, I've got my x2 is 4, so I'll put my 4 down there, minus my x1 is -1, so that ends up being -2. So then I have 1 minus a -2, which ends up becoming plus, so that's 1 plus 2 over 4 plus 2. So simplifying that even more, I got 3 over 6, which ends up being 1 over 2. So either way you do it, and if you notice -2, 2 is right here, 4, 1 is this point. So either if I use the graph or I use my formula, I still get the same slope over here. So no matter how you calculate the slope, you should get the same one each time. All right, so now let's look at just straight vertical lines and horizontal lines. So a vertical or horizontal line goes left and right. So what we think about is we think about how much that runs. Now the run or the rise, so we're doing rise over run. So my rise for this one is 0 because it's a flat line, there's no rise. So if I'm doing rise over run, I'm going to do 0 over my run, which it runs on forever, so that's infinity. But you think about what's 0 divided by infinity, so that equals 0. So my slope is 0. And if you think about an equation, my equations are always in this form, y equals m times x plus b, where m is my slope. So what I'm going to do is, my slope is 0 in this case, so that means that this is pretty much gone. So I've got y equals, I've got 0 for my slope times x plus b. B is my y-intercept. 0 times x is 0, so I've got y equals my y-intercept, and if you look here, my y-intercept looks like it's 3, so my y equals 3. So that would be my equation for this line, is y equals 3. For a vertical line, this works very similarly. I'm doing rise over run, but if you look at my rise, it's going to go to infinity because it goes up and down forever, but my run is 0. Now can we divide by 0? No, you cannot divide by 0. So that has a slope of undefined. So because you can't divide by 0, so that means that that slope is undefined. And if you notice, my line only crosses the x-axis. So wherever it crosses the x-axis, that's what our equation is going to look like. So my equation is going to be x equals -2. If you notice, this crosses and my x equals -2, so it's a vertical line that goes straight through there. Alright, so now let's do a little bit more difficult problem. So I want to find r if m, so it's giving me my slope, my m is equal to 4, and it goes through the line r6 and 4,2. So it's giving me 2 points. I know the slope. What I'm trying to figure out is r. So I know the slope formula is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what I do is I label all the points. So I'm labeling my r is x1, my 6 is y1, this is x2, y2, plug all that stuff into my formula. Now if it's 4 divided by 1, it's the same as 4. So I can think of my rise over my run. I'm going to rise 4 and run 1. So I'm going to sub everything in here. I cross multiply because if I have two fractions with the equal sign, I can cross multiply in order to solve that. So I've got 4 times, in parentheses, 4 minus r because I want to keep those together. Then I've got 1 times 2 minus 6. I use my distributive property for that, so I get 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times negative r is negative 4r, plus 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. Bring it up here. I've got 16 minus 4r equals negative 4, so I simplified 2 minus 6 is negative 4. And now I solve for r. So I subtract 16 from both sides. I got negative 4 minus 16 is negative 20. 16 minus 16 cancels each other out. So now I've got negative 4r equals negative 20. Divide both sides by negative 4. So that means that r is now equal to negative 20 divided by negative 4, which ends up being 5. So my r is equal to 5. And that is everything you need to know about how to find slope.